Hello, we are here to end the saga. I am prepared to give you the most thorough description and explanation as to what Sweet's Cushion Clear paint is really like. I know when I was a beginner, I could hardly find any information about Cushion Clear anywhere on the internet, and that's what's kind of driven this whole series. Now, how am I going to give such a thorough and detailed description, even though I've already given my description once or twice before? Well, nothing you're going to hear from me from this point forward is going to be my opinion at all. I've actually reached out to a bunch of people in the Kendama community who I know and can trust to give me their honest opinions and experiences with Cushion Clear paint, whether it be, their absolute favorite or if it's a paint they despise. These are real people, not actors. First, I'm going to zip through some YouTube comments that I think will be beneficial for some of you guys to hear, and then I have about 8 detailed testimonials from different people of different experience levels from the Kendama community. So think of it as if you're going and just asking 8 different Kendama players, hey, what do you think about Sweet's Cushion Clear? Except you don't have to do that, you just have to watch this because I did all of that legwork for you. I also tried to contact Sweet's Kendamas themselves to ask them, who is your paint best suited for? But I guess Instagram DMs isn't the best way to reach a well-established company. So you live and learn. But Sweets, if you're watching this, drop a comment. With that, I'll start with a few of the YouTube comments that I found a little bit helpful to warm us up, get the taste in our mouth, and then we'll get into some more detailed testimonials, and you'll start to see why there really is no straightforward answer on the internet right now. Alright, Sweet's Cushion Clear, let's strap in and get right into these comments. Sweet's Cushion Clear, it's just gonna get stickier the more you play it. I've had my pizza mod for almost 6 months, and it's even better than day 1. For me, out of the box, Cushion Clear is super sticky and then it loses stick over time, but regains it again. I think out of the box is as sticky as it gets. Kush is one of the best yet most inconsistent paints out there. That donut mod is the stickiest of any batch I've ever played, which makes it hard on a Ken that is less than 75 grams. I am not a fan of Cushion because of how it acts in humid environments. In tropical countries like the Philippines, Kush peels like crazy. It'll break in and get softer, it'll stay sticky for a long time. There's going to be a time where the paint gets slick and then it'll start to get softer and more grippy. Kush is a million times better broken in. I've grown not a fan of Cushion Clear. I probably own 8 or 9 Cushion Damas and the paint isn't the same as it used to be. It's now a thinner coat and less consistent since they have to paint more of them. The newer Damas I have, including the donut, loses tack with any tiny bit of moisture on your hands and also chips a little bit more. I've got a George Marshall mod with Cushion Clear paint and I find its tackiness changes day by day. Sometimes it sticks like glue, sometimes it's an ice rink. So, thanks for the video though. Hard to find a decent video explaining the paint. Yes it is. My Cushion Clear is definitely less tacky than my Sticky Clear. It makes small adjustments on Lunars easier, but overall I'd say my Kush is harder to play on than my Sticky. Kush seems to last a lot longer though. It definitely gets more grippy with time, whereas Sticky Clears get worse over time. Kush will last longer, but I think playability is better on Sticky. Cushion Clear is very inconsistent. Mine is insanely tacky, but I tried a Kush Dama at a jam, and theirs was very manageable and a bit slippy. Alright, now we are getting into the thick of it. First of all, major thank you to every single player to follow who was generous enough to share their opinion and who I'm also going to be keeping anonymous just as a promise to them to make sure they were able to be as honest as possible and so that none of you guys go and yell at them for their opinions. You can feel free to share your opinions on their opinions in the comments of this video, and if you really got to do some yelling, just do it down there because you won't be yelling at me this time. Alright, so our first Kendama player says, okay, to start off, Kush is definitely one of my favorite paints. The issue is that the old Kush mods used to be legendary compared to newer ones. It definitely seems like they reduced quality for quantity or something along those lines. Even still, new Kush slaps, but it just doesn't stand out as much, especially compared to the paints like Rhino Clear or Friction Clear. Side note, Rhino Clear does come up a lot as a comparison to Cushion Clear. I did a little bit of research. It seems like Rhino Clear might be a little bit more expensive than Cushion Clear, so that could sway your take one way or another, but just figured I'd mention that if you hear the word Rhino Clear coming up a whole bunch. If you leave a Kush mod without seshing it much and just let it sit there for a while, it works extra well for some reason. I've never understood that, but its long-term stickiness is definitely a benefit. Another issue there is that if you sesh it a lot very early, it seems to lose its quality pretty quick. Lysol or alcohol wipes help bring it back to life, but it is not the same as newer Kush. They continue, if you leave a Kush mod without seshing it much and just let it sit there for a while, it works extra well for some reason. I've never understood that, but its long-term stickiness is definitely a benefit. Another issue there is that if you sesh it a lot very early, it seems to lose its quality pretty quick. Lysol or alcohol wipes can help bring Kush back to life, but it's not the same, and the newer Kush seems to peel or chip a lot easier than the old stuff. Just like most satins, it also plays best in humid conditions, in my opinion. Overall though, I love using Sweets Kush, but as you can see, I have my reasons for alternating between paints. In general, I'd say I'd like Rhino Clear more than Kush in terms of satin paints, but I think Kush beats Rhino in terms of long-term usability, so that opinion could change with time. We are now shifting perspectives to Kendama player number 2's opinion. And they are starting off bold. Cushion Clear is overhyped. It plays great once it's broken in, and out of the box it plays well. I'd say it's similar to silk paints when fresh. There is a big issue with chipping. Something about Kush tends to make it flake off in big chunks. Kush was much better in the prime shape days. It seemed like a thicker formula, or perhaps it's the more complex graphics of the boost era that are resulting in a lower quality of Kush. My opinion is that Sweets is trying to save money by applying a thinner coat. However, I have heard that the base paint design has a big impact on the Kush quality, hence why the simple prime designs have a better Cushion Clear feeling to them. So this person is basically saying that crazier design on the Kendama will result in the Cushion Clear coating being a bit more prone to peeling. Overall, I feel like Sticky is the best route to go, talking about sticky paint as opposed to Kush. Sticky is amazing out of the box, but loses stick once it gets oily or hand greasy or whatever. It starts to increase in stickiness once it becomes well broken in though. While Kush is alright out of the box, it then experiences a few weeks, depending on how much you play, where it is absolutely perfect, but then it starts to degrade and chip, and loses big pieces of the Kush coating, as well as the Tama design, if aesthetic damage matters to you at all. So basically saying, if the Kush is chipping away, so is your nice, pretty finish on your Kendama. I will say that old school Kush in the prime era was absolutely amazing. Durable, long-lasting, perfect tack, and Kush looks better in my opinion. I prefer matte over gloss when it comes to the look of the Tama. So yeah, another note, if looks matter to you, Kush obviously doesn't shine very much, whereas if I had a sticky Tama back there, you get the light reflecting off of it, more of a metallic look. So that could influence your opinion of what you get if you care about looks a lot. Kendama Player 2 continues, also, Rhino Clear is better than Kush in my opinion. And I've also heard Sulab Friction Clear is even better. Some Kush Tamas I've had will just start peeling. I don't know if this is a heat or humidity issue, but I've had a few Tamas that start with this weird light peeling, flaking process in just the outer cushion layer, regardless of the play. A bit of shift in perspective, moving on to Kendama Player 3, who says, Cushion Clear has always been one of my favorites. When you get a perfect Cushion Clear, you can't not play it. It's arguably one of the greatest innovations in the game, despite the variance in quality. I think in general, the quality has become more sporadic, but I've still played recent Kush Damas that absolutely slap. Segue into Kendama Player number 4, who says, I personally don't like Kush. So I will say Kush is a better paint than sticky or rubber, 100%, but the durability is about the same as sticky or rubber. The coat doesn't last long at all before chipping and peeling, where there are so many better paints out there that yes, still take a toll since it's wood hitting wood after all, but nowhere near as fast as Cushion Clear. Also, Kush is absolutely terrible for lighthouses, just topples them over even if you try the slightest adjustment. For lunars though, it's amazing and just grips instantly. Lighthouses of course is completely different. So like I said, I'll still consider Kush a good paint, but that's mainly because house paints will always be better than your factory sticky or rubber. A short and sweet take comes from Kendama player number 5, who says, I love Kush depending on the batch. The old batch broke in nice and cushy while still being durable. Even though modern batches still have that grippy cushion feel, it's way more prone to chipping and peeling. We're starting to see some similar things kind of cross over between opinions. All in all, I still love the feeling of Kush. Even though out of the box it's way too sticky to hold a lighthouse properly, I love how it slaps and sticks after a proper break-in. Some similarities coming up in the opinion of Kendama player number 6, who says, older batches of Kush are by far superior to what you get now. I find that recently they are lovely to play for like a day, and then it starts to peel to the slippiest undercoating. Without slandering, and just from what I've heard from the people who have played years longer than me, they've seemed to have gone for more quantity over quality. And that refers to simply quality being the quality of the cushion finish versus quantity being how many damas they're pumping out on a daily basis. We have some very nice experience-driven opinion from Kendama player numero 7 here, starting with a little section comparing the old Kush to the new Kush. Some things we've heard before, some things we haven't yet, so let's see what they have to say. Old Kush is thicker. It's a little less grippy than new Kush, but it's more chip resistant. It's hard to do a side-by-side comparison because you'll only find old Kush on prime shapes and new Kush on boost setups. Prime and boost being the old and new, respectively, shapes that Sweets tends to use. Obviously, you can put a prime Tama with the old Kush onto a boost Ken, but the prime Tamas are smaller in diameter and have a smaller bevel, so even aside from the paint, they are going to play differently. Overall, I personally think new Kush is better than old Kush. A bit of a different opinion than what we've been hearing. To put it simply, I think new Kush plays better, but old Kush lasts longer. So which one you'd like better depends on your own preference, and that's a perfect take. A lot of this is what you're going to take away from it, right? The way that you play, how often you play, things like that is really going to affect your personal decision on how you feel about Kush and what all of these opinions even mean to you. Now they go into a bit more detail with respect to the V23 series Sweets Kendamas. This was a unique batch of Kush. It had a more matte finish to it, wasn't quite as grippy as most batches of Kush, but was very durable. It didn't flake the way some batches do, and it was great for being able to adjust the Tama when in Lighthouse or Lunar. Personally, this wasn't my favorite batch, but a lot of people who don't typically like Kush really enjoyed this batch. Now we take a detour into the debate between raw wood and painted Tamas. Kush is better on raw wood Tamas than painted Tamas. Since Cushion Clear adheres directly to the wood, it'll be less flaky. I've also found the raw wood Kush tends to be particularly grippy right from the get-go. So something like this, again, just so that making sure this is all clear, this is a painted Tama and then the Kush is applied on top, whereas I don't have any, but some Tamas are just the natural wood, and you see like the wood grain, and then the Kush is applied to that. This person seems to be explaining that the Kush feels and lasts a lot better on a natty or a natural Tama. Moving forward, we learn the life cycle of a Kush from their perspective. Kush starts out fairly grippy, typically not quite as grippy as a nice fresh sticky, but still enough grip to catch lunars with ease. Unlike sticky, which typically starts out at its prime and only gets less sticky the more it's played, Kush typically tends to get more grippy as it's played. At a certain point, it does start to lose grip again, but I can personally use one Kush Dama for 3 to 4 months with excellent grip the entire time. For people who are rougher on these setups, whether it be excessively aggressive missed down spikes, throwing or smashing your setup after lacing a trick, or heavy instas and taps, and for those who don't wash their hands before playing, they likely won't have such a long lifespan when playing Kush. But for the average player, it will stay honed for longer. And that's another fantastic way to put, kind of the variety that people are going to see with their Damas, because everybody uses them differently. And you're starting to see why it's so hard to just Google what is Cushion Clear like and get a straightforward answer. Continuing, also for some people with excessively sweaty hands like myself, sticky clear becomes very slick very quickly for me, and I found most people with excessively sweaty hands find the Kush holds up better against it. So if you're a hand sweater, maybe Kush, will last longer for you. Kendama Player 7 continues with one last description, specifically referencing the version 21 Sweets Cushion Clear Damas. This was a great batch of Kush. The blackjack was a little flaky, likely due to the intricacy of the design, but the roulette and craps both held up really well. All three are insanely grippy while still allowing you to adjust a little bit. So obviously there it's cool to see kind of this person's perspective on a specific series of kendamas from Sweets, so maybe that'll influence your decision if you're buying used. You could look into the V21 or V23 series depending on how you feel about this person's take on them. We will close off with Kendama Player number 8's opinion. After playing Kush over the weekend, I realized I like it, but I definitely prefer a bigger Tama and sometimes have a problem with Lighthouse's balancing. It feels not smooth and it falls easier with Kush. The paint itself catches lunars really good, but I'd prefer Kush on a bit bigger Tama. It's a good beginner premium paint if you're trying to up your game, but I feel limited using Kush Tama when someone is using a bigger Rhino Clear or Friction Clear. Definitely would pick Kush over Sticky though. I've been liking rubber or cushion Tamas way more than Sticky, and I feel like I play differently or worse with a sticky paint. Now, I totally understand that that is an absolute lot to take in, and I considered trying to summarize everything down into a few points, but the truth is that is basically impossible. Cushion Clear is going to deliver everybody kind of a unique experience when it comes to its lifespan, its consistency, and the actual feel of how it plays. You really have to go and dissect all of this information that you've heard and map out your own conclusion based on your own wants and needs. And what's the worst case scenario is you just gotta buy it and try it. Like I said, you can listen to the key little points, oh, I have sweaty hands, or my Tama looks like this, and you might be able to pick apart, oh, for my experience, Kush would be perfect, or my experience, Kush just wouldn't. I think I've done all that I hoped to do, which is provide you with as much information as possible without you needing to go out and do it yourself. And yeah, I do hope you learned something. I hope you stick around for some more kendama and etc. content. And as I slap my knee, I hope you do have, as always, a wonderful day. Thanks for sticking around. Later.